having a great week so far. I am excited about this video because I'm going to do another book review, and I'm so excited I've already done this video once. What happened was I made a video and I don't know what happened. I don't know if I moved my camera or what happened. And after all was said and done, I go to edit, and like in some of the shots my face was half cut off. So I'm going to be doing this video again. The book I am reviewing today is a book that I finished last week, and it was a really good read. And I know that I say that every time I get on camera. This book was so good. But the thing is, I wouldn't invest my time making a video if I didn't like the book. I have read many books, some of which I thought were terrible, but at the same time, I also don't want to go on camera bashing an author and their craft. Like, especially with authors that are trying to make something of themselves. I just feel like, who am I to say that what they've written is terrible? I mean, it doesn't mean that I ever have to read their book again. I probably wouldn't invest any more of my time or money into any of their other books, but I don't want to go on camera and just annihilate people who are just trying to express themselves in a creative way. That's why you only see me review books that are good. Now, if you have a suggestion and you want me to do a video on a collective group of books that I didn't care for, then, I might consider that, but I don't want to shine the spotlight on one book that I hate. So I'm going to review a book called Playing with Fire, and it was written by L.J. Shen. That is what this book is today, and I'm also going to be doing a full face of makeup. All of the products I use today will be listed in the description box, and I'm just going to play around with my makeup. I have no set look I want to do. I did in the video, this same video that I made a few days ago that didn't turn out, but today I'm just going to wing it, and yeah, so let's get started. So in this particular book, the female lead character, her name is Grace, and she is the daughter of a deceased mother who died of a drug overdose and a father who was non-existent in her life. So she was raised by her grandma, and they live in a small town in Texas. When the book opens up, Grace has just suffered a very traumatic experience. It completely changed the entire course of her life. This girl growing up, she was incredibly beautiful, and she really had a presence on stage, and theater was such a passion for her that everybody always told her she was going to grow up and make something big of herself, become a really big movie star. And after this tragedy, her dreams were annihilated. So cut to where her life is now, in the present in this book. She is going to a university in her town, and she didn't go away to university because her grandmother, whom she still lives with, is at the point where she's requiring more care. Her grandma is starting to become very forgetful and experiencing a lot of the classic signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's. So she feels like she has to stay close to home. And because it's a small town, a lot of people that she went to school with also ended up going to this university. And so she's never really been able to escape her trauma, and she's never been able to start somewhere fresh with a clean slate with people that she didn't know. So everybody either had known her story or had heard rumors of her story, and a lot of the times the rumors that were heard weren't necessarily the truth. So aside from going to college, Grace spends a lot of time either taking care of her grandma, who she lives with, or working at a mobile food truck called That Taco Truck, and she works with her best friend Carly, and her best friend Carly is actually the daughter of the owner who runs and operates the taco truck that they work at. And it's really the only social relief that Grace gets in life other than her grandma. Grace also spends a lot of time trying to make herself invisible to the world, and the reason why is because when she had that tragic experience, it completely physically scarred and marred her face. Because Grace spent so much time making herself invisible and living life in the shadows, she really didn't let herself open up to forming relationships with anybody. She wasn't social. All of the people that she had known in high school when the tragedy occurred kind of disown her after the tragedy, when her beauty no longer remained in the way that it was. And Grace became so self-conscious, thinking obviously people who she thought she could trust, people she was really close with, abandoned her, and she would not go out in public without nearly a pound of makeup on her face and a ball cap to hide anything that the makeup couldn't conceal. And she always wore a hoodie. If you live in Texas, you know how hot it gets. She was going out in a hoodie in the Texas summer, and that's bananas. She felt that was her only choice to have people not give her any negative attention. She knew that if people noticed her scarred features, that they would stare, and she wanted nothing to do with that. She didn't want any attention at all. Because Grace wasn't really sociable and she didn't allow people in, she inevitably put up some pretty big walls. She kind of became a very tough person and very hardened after her experience. One day, while Grace and her best friend Carly were working at the taco truck, a group of popular kids from the university showed up. Some of them Grace knew personally from high school. Some of them she only knew of their reputation. Grace kind of resented these kids because, you know, this is where she should have been in life. She should have been part of the party goers. She should have been part of the popular group. She should have been the girl that other guys desired. And she almost grew kind of a hatred towards these people because it made her see just how superficial those people were. She didn't realize just how superficial they were when she was part of those people, but now being an outsider, she could see, you know, that these people were kind of jerks. And one of the people in the group that came to the taco truck was West St. Clair. And it wasn't anybody that she knew, but she definitely knew of him because he had quite the reputation around campus. And his reputation was for being, you know, the typical bad boy player who got all the girls. He was absolutely gorgeous, but he was actually a jerk. He was a fighter, and every Friday night at the abandoned mall in town, he was the main act, and he was known to win every fight that he was in. After knowing all that she did about West and his reputation and seeing exactly the jerk that he was and that his reputation said he was, she was completely surprised that he asked for a job. And she was immediately hesitant about that. Not only was he rude, but he really thought that he could get anything that he wanted. So Grace's first impression of West already wasn't a good one. So when he came to ask for a job at the taco truck and then got the job, she was not excited about it. She did not want to work with him. But she just kept in mind the fact that her best friend Carly said that if it didn't work out with West at the taco truck, then he would be fired and they could find a replacement. At first, when they were working in the taco truck together, They didn't speak much more outside of just the responsibilities at the job, and both of them could tell that they didn't really care for each other. But little by little, as time went by, the more that they worked together, the more that they exchanged words. Naturally, the more that they said to each other, the more that they learned about each other. And the more that they learned about each other, the more that they realized they actually kind of liked each other. And Grace really started to realize that West wasn't the hardened jerk that she thought that he was. And West kind of grew an odd curiosity about Grace. She was not one to let him or anybody else walk all over her. But her first taste of kindness in regard to West was when she had to run out of work without notice and left him high and dry to close up. And he ended up showing up in a time of need and helped her in a situation where most people probably would have bailed. She was really surprised at the thoughtfulness and the capacity of selflessness that West possessed, but she just didn't realize how much West actually needed help himself. As Grace began to let Wes in and open up to him, she quickly realized that he had also suffered a terrible tragedy in his life. And that was one more way for them to kind of find common ground within each other. But he was not very open about what that tragedy was. But Grace seemed kind of determined to learn what kind of trauma caused him to be the person he is and caused him to be so hardened and so cynical about life and so resistant to letting people in. The whole story kind of follows the discovery of West and Grace when they learn about each other's tragedies and what they experienced and why they made them who they are today, and growing close because of it. Grace and West's story follows a popular romance trope called friends to enemies. I really like those stories because it always seems like the tension and the frustration that they have with each other in the beginning always leads to a more passionate connection when the two main characters finally meet in the middle. And it always seems like their love for each other is in a way stronger because they've had to overcome the obstacle of hating each other. I feel like Grace and West's story is so beautiful because they thought they were so wrong for each other. The more time that they spent together, the more they realized how right they were for each other. And it was almost like one of those opposites attract sort of thing. And they realized they had more in common. They realized they judged each other too quickly. And it was beautiful to see them come together. And their story really pressed upon the fact that beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. And Grace was so self-conscious about her looks because she was once so beautiful with no flaws. And here she was, her face was scarred, her body was scarred, and Wes thought that she was just the most beautiful girl in the world. And it made her feel more confident and made her feel more beautiful. I love that they both pushed each other into situations that they weren't comfortable with before. Being around each other forced them to bring out the best in each other. And West was able to bring out confidence in Grace, and he was able to push her to keep doing the things that she loved and that she was good at because he believed in her. And in turn, Grace pushed West to open himself up and establish relationships and make himself vulnerable. The symbolism of phoenix rising from the ashes was used a lot in this book, and it was really important to Grace. And Grace was like the phoenix, and the ashes represented her tragedy. And she wore a really dingy looking ring on her finger, and it was a ring that her mother had given her, and it was emblazoned with a flame. And that ring was the start of her journey to strength, and it became a constant symbol of strength. And she relied on it. She pressed it to her mouth and recited wishes into it, and it got her through her days. Without giving too much away of this book, because I really want you to read it and form your own opinions about it and be surprised at all of the twists and turns, I'm going to leave you with what I've already talked about and just give you a little tidbit about the author. L.J. Shen is a contemporary romance author, and from what I've read, she lives in California, and she has written 24 books, I think. She is a USA Today and Washington Post bestseller. This book in particular that I just read has a 4.5-star rating on Amazon, and I want to say it's got like 2,500 reviews. That seems to be the case with most of her books that I checked out. They all have a very high rating. They all have a lot of reviews, and I think she is a pretty popular author in the romance world. This book, and I am pretty sure a few of her other books, are on the monthly subscription that I've mentioned before, Amazon Unlimited. It is a monthly subscription for an unlimited amount of digital books. Like I said, I read a lot on my Kindle or on my Kindle app on my phone, just because I don't have the kind of space in my house for all of the books that I read. So the Kindle is a really convenient way for me to read anywhere. I did look at the price of the subscription. It is $9.99. Most digital copies of books are typically priced around $2.99 to $4.99. So even if you read 3 or 4 books, you'd get your money's worth. So I really think it's worth it. I will be reading more from L.J. Shen. I've already read one of her other books called Midnight Blue. It was worth my time, and I definitely would invest more time in this author. I hope that you check this book out, and I hope you love it as much as I did. And let me know what you thought in the comments. If you've read this book, let me know what you thought. If you have any suggestions of books for me to read, please let me know. I am not stuck in the romance genre. I would be willing to read just about anything, so let me know what you think. As always, thank you for your time, thank you for your support, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!